Explore, explore, we're all about it. Explore, explore. Explore, explore, God's word, don't doubt it. Explore, explore. We've got the Bible beat, so get on your feet. It's time to sing and praise. God's word is true, Jesus is there for you. It's time to sing and praise. Explore, explore, we're all about it. Explore, explore. Explore, explore, God's word, don't doubt it. Explore, explore. The more we go, the more we grow. It's time to sing and praise Jesus and you and your friends too. It's time to sing, it's time to sing and praise.
Hi Xplore kids, I'm super excited for you guys to join me today. If it's your first time with us and joining us, welcome. And if it was your birthday this week, happy birthday. Our parents would love for you to get involved as we dance, worship our King Jesus, and learn more about the nature of God. Now for the few weeks, we're going to be learning more about the nature of God, who God is, His character, learning that God is abounding in love, God is gracious, God is compassionate, God is slow to anger, and God is faithful. But before we get into that, let's jump into worship.
Here we go.
You guys, worship was amazing, and I hope you guys enjoyed it just as I did. Now, jumping into our story and learning more about the nature of God. Now, our memory verse for this week is Exodus 34 verse 6. And as he walked past in front of Moses, proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate, the gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithful. May this be a reminder that God is faithful, God is abounding in love, and God is gracious. God is also compassionate, and God is slow to anger. Now today we are on week 3 of our new journey called the nature of God, as you may have heard. Now today we're learning more about God's character, which is God is slow to anger. Now, have any of you guys been angry and mad at something? Or have you ever reacted in anger when someone has done something bad to you? Now today we learned that even when we do things that frustrate God and make God angry, God doesn't react in anger. He loves us unconditionally. Now let me explain what slow to anger means. Slow to anger means reacting in a nice way instead of anger. Slow to anger means that instead of you shouting and crying and yelling at people, you decide to act nicely and treat them nicely even when you're mad. That means you're slow to anger and you're not allowing your emotions to rule over you. Now, for example, let's say your baby brother steals your toys or wants to play with your toys by force. Now you're going to get angry at them, but actually you're not going to get angry at them to the point where you're yelling at them and shouting at them, but instead you're going to talk to them nicely and actually be like, brother or sister, can you please give me my toy back? Instead of give me my toy back and getting frustrated and angry about everything. Today we learned that God is slow to anger, and we should also be slow to anger.
Morning kids, boys and girls, so glad to have you all here today. I'm hoping you had the coolest, most awesome week ever at school. And for some of you that's going on holidays, I'm super jealous that you guys are going on holiday. I wish I could be on holiday with you guys, and that would be so much fun. But other than that, I want to just take you guys through the most epic story, probably in the whole history of the Bible. And boys and girls, this story is one of like the founding stories for me as a kid. I remember when I was growing up and going through Sunday school, and my mom and my dad would read me this story at night time, and I really hope this story sinks in with you guys. It just shows you all about God's, like his mercy and how slow he is to anger with his grace and his love for all of us. So I'm going to kick it away with the story, and I really want you guys to rub those ears like this, make them nice and warm, and put your fingers on your lips. What's Uncle JJ's one rule? When the lips are quiet, you guys can listen. There we go. Okay, guys. So one day, I don't know if you guys all remember the story of when Moses parted the Red Sea, when he took the Israelites from Egypt and took them into the promised land. Now, when Moses parted the sea, he did it because God gave him authority to do so. But this story is about the 10 commandments. Can you all show me 10 fingers? There we go. So it wasn't just 1 or 2 or 5 or 7. It was 10 commandments. And those commandments were rules given to Moses from God, directly from God. So what happened was Moses took all the Israelites through the Red Sea, and he led them through to the promised land. God asked Moses to go up to the mountain so he could be with God in God's presence, so that God could actually give him the 10 commandments. But while Moses was up on the mountain, it took quite a while, guys. Like, it took a few days, maybe even weeks at a time, where Moses sat up in the mountains just listening and talking with God about the commandments. And guess what? He wrote it on stone. Who's ever written on a stone before? I mean, that's old, guys. And now Moses is writing all these commandments. Each commandment is on a stone. The stones were probably about this big, okay? Maybe even smaller, maybe bigger. But he wrote these commandments down. But But while he was writing these commandments down, all the Israelites that Moses had led through to the promised land and took them through the Red Sea, they saw for themselves the wonders of God and the power that God had. I mean, God split the ocean. He literally split the water between each other so they could walk. But they went through a difficult time and they started worshiping idols and objects in replace of worshiping God. So they lost their faith and they still believed in God, but they started worshiping false idols. And in God's eyes, that is a big no-no, guys. We don't worship false idols. We worship God the Father. And they started worshiping false idols and making things to pray to. And God knew this. God saw this. Moses prayed that God would have mercy on them and forgive them for what they are doing, because they knew it was wrong, but they still did it, guys. And guess what? With God's love and His grace, He forgave them, and He did not let His wrath out on the people and get angry. He forgave them, and He let them carry on, hoping that they would come back and worship God again. But then it happened more often. While Moses was still up in the mountains, they continued to do the same things God just forgave them. And when Moses came down and he saw this, Moses got so angry, guys. He took the 10 commandments that he had just carved out in the stone and he threw them down right on the floor, and he just went so angry. He started shouting at the people saying, "How can you do this? You can't worship false idols. We worship God." And out of his anger, he realized that God was merciful. And that is why God's mercy and His love for us, He doesn't get angry with us. He's slow to anger. And that is what God teaches us every single day, guys, to be slow to anger and quick to forgive. And at the end of the day, Moses forgave them and he taught them a lesson. So at the end of the day, guys, they learned to trust in God the same way Moses trusted in God. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed the story. Just want to ask you guys, who knows what the main points of that story was? That's right. For all of you who said God's mercy and His slow to angerness, that is exactly it, guys. To be slow to anger and quick to forgive. The way God is slow to anger with us and quick to forgive us. Hope you guys enjoyed the story. And I really want to ask all of you, if you guys can go to another friend, maybe in school, or your brother or sister who's at home, or someone that you play with in the street or at your house, or wherever the case may be, I want you to tell them this story, how God loves them. All right, guys. Bye for now, kids.
Welcome back, Xplore kids. This week we learned about anger and what we can do when we're angry and how God treats us when we're angry. So for today's craft, you'll need a printout, you'll need some crayons, scissors, and let's get started. We're going to start by coloring in the image. Once you've colored in, you can go ahead and cut it out. Now that we've cut it out, if we turn to the back, there's a little thing that says, "When I'm angry, I can." So I would like you to fill out a few things of what you can do when you're angry. An example is, when I'm angry, I can keep calm and not lose my cool. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope to see you next week. Thank you. Bye!